of Sperry H. Goodman.
About 10,000 years ago, people found that they didn't have to chase their food around all day. They could grow it right there where they were. It's called farming. And ever since then, we've been trying to control plants and animals for 3 good reasons: breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Now, how many cows do you think you'd see if they'd never been domesticated by humans? You ever seen a cow out in the wild fighting for its life? You think chickens will one day rise up and take over the world? No, I don't think so. Somewhere back in time, thousands and thousands of years ago, feeding ourselves changed from a little luck to a lot of science. We've been trying to improve that science ever since. Haven't we, ladies? In the United States, grocery shelves are filled with genetically modified food. Take a look at this corn. No blemishes, not a kernel out of place. Only in America, right? Well, not exactly. In Europe, if a food is genetically modified, it has to be labeled as such. Now, why is that? Is there something to be afraid of? Well, that's a good question, and one that's probably not asked often enough. We're getting more and more genetically modified food faster and faster. What is it? Do we need it? Is it safe? Well, let's have a look. Do you eat genetically modified food?
I don't know, do I?
You ever eat corn?
Yeah.
Corn is in the U.S. now is almost all modified.
Oh. I just thought corn grows, they pick it and you eat it.
What if I told you we could put a gene from a fish into a tomato and it keeps them from freezing? Would you eat that tomato?
Probably not.
Now, why do you say that?
Because that sounds fishy to me. Fish and tomato is kind of weird, but if I didn't know, I would probably eat it anyways.
Does it bother you?
I think it bothers me that we're stepping beyond normal boundaries, but I guess the food content itself that you're eating is probably the same.
I'm hoping that they're doing it for the better of the, you know, for my health or for it to be edible for me.
If it's going to affect me as a human, my body, my system, then it's bad as hell.
Every living thing contains DNA, which includes chromosomes and genes. Now, genes provide the instructions to build a living thing. If you change one of the genes, you rewrite one of the instructions. So instead of Bill Nye the brown-eyed guy, you'd get Bill Nye with blue eyes. Some people think that would be a distinct improvement. But when we genetically modify our food, say by taking a gene from a fish and putting it in a tomato, we're creating a whole new species, one that's never existed on Earth before. So some would say, you've created a monster, a frankenfood. Others would say, no, it's still a fruit or a vegetable. I'm just making my lunch.
We're outside of Pullman, Washington, in wheat fields that we use for breeding.
Breeding wheat.
Breeding wheat. Wheat has been grown in an organized way for probably about 10,000 years. And the farmers in those 10,000 years improved the wheat a little bit each generation.
Are you trying to make wheat that will grow every year?
Wheat has a large gene base that we can work with. So a lot of wild relatives of wheat are available. Many of those are perennials, so they don't die each year. And we can make a cross between these perennial wild relatives and normal or domestic wheat, annual wheat, and produce lines that don't die each year.
So how do we make a hybrid?
The first step in making a hybrid or a cross is to emasculate. And what we mean by emasculate is to pull out the male parts of the flower.
Ouch, ouch.
And we're taking the male parts out of the wheat flower and turning it into a female.
So then do you do dozens or hundreds of plants at a time?
Over a year, we do hundreds or thousands of crosses.
All done by hand?
All done by hand. Manually go in with tweezers, pull out the anthers, introduce pollen from another plant. You have a hybrid seed, you grow that, and you produce a new variety of wheat.
It takes years and years.
It takes many years, so it takes a season just to get the hybrid, because you'll take that seed and plant that out the next year. It'll take a year to get that progeny, and it'll take 15 years or so to get a variety.
Do you, domesticated wheat, take this wild wheat to be your lawfully wedded hybrid? See, breeding food crops is a lot like a marriage, or a wedding, a shotgun wedding, because the wheat doesn't have much say in the matter. But traditional breeding of food crops takes plenty of human intervention. Agricultural scientists have been tinkering with our food for centuries. That's why most of the food you eat cannot be found in nature. So watermelon, tomatoes, plums, and corn bear little resemblance to their original natural species. But now scientists can take it another step. They can get rid of this wedding ceremony altogether and mix genes from species that are hardly related at all. So how does that go? Something old, something new, something borrowed, and something... There's nothing blue here.
Hey kids, how about some broccoli for dinner?
Yay!
Yes, you heard right. It used to be broccoli was always left on the plate. That's before I discovered DuSanto's new broccoli. It has all the vitamin and mineral goodness of regular broccoli, but now it's been genetically engineered to taste like cherry, kiwi, and new cola flavor. And it stays fresh in your refrigerator for months because they've added the gene of a special mushroom. A mushroom that has a vital nutrient. What kind of mushroom?
New broccoli. All of the goodness, none of the broccoli.
This is an organically grown papaya, a tropical fruit. This particular one is infected with the very common ring spot virus. Now, people eat papayas like this all the time. This is a papaya that's been genetically modified so that it has a tiny piece of the DNA from that very same ring spot virus embedded in its DNA. It's immune or resistant to ring spot infection. So which one do you want to eat? The natural one with lots of ring spot virus DNA, or the modified one with just a little bit of that very same DNA? It's the classic dilemma of natural versus modified. Is it good versus evil? Or is it just another step in the march of agricultural progress? So what exactly do you mean by transgenic?
Transgenic is a term that also means genetically engineered.
Across the genes, transgenic.
Transgenic. It means you can take a gene from another organism and put it into this organism. We're going to go right in here.
In here? I love it. Do I turn this on?
Yes.
So this is rice to rice. You're transferring genes from one rice plant to another rice plant.
Right.
How is that different from what a conventional rice farmer would do?